Welcome to Your Business, Your Life with Matt DiFrancesco, your personal financial technician. Whether you've had years of success in your business or are just starting out, HighLift Financial can help you create a vision for your business, life, and family, and align these for generational wealth. So as they say, what happens in your life affects your business. And now, on to the show. Well, hello and welcome to Your Business, Your Life with me, Matt DiFrancesco. So if you're a regular listener to this podcast, we talk about a variety of topics. We talk about how to build value in your shop. We talk about having leadership, developing culture. We talk about how to properly exit a business, some of the different opportunities that are out there. We talk about forming a vision for what you want your after-shop business life to look like. And so I'm really intrigued by my guest today because John Stuef, he's a 40-year seasoned entrepreneur, and he's a 40-year veteran of the collision industry. He had a successful 10 years as a multi-shop owner. He strategically exited from that business, began contributing through roles for Caliber and AutoNation, and from there started diversifying in a lot of other businesses, such as got into a health and fitness or a fitness bar product, and also dog training. But he's also the author of a book called From Doing to Leading, and it's a book that delves into leadership and neurochemistry, which is really a fascinating thing. And I think a lot of listeners are really going to get a lot out of that. So right now, his dog training business, The Dog Captain, also he's a strong advocate for holistic well-being and emphasizing the importance of health and a balanced living alongside financial success. So we're going to kind of cover a lot of broad topics here, but I'm kind of really excited to have some real life experience here for you guys to be able to gain some wisdom on. So John, welcome to Your Business, Your Life.
Hey, thank you, Matt. My pleasure, sir.
No problem. So, John, let's start out. Let's kind of just jump in here. And so I know you've had 40 years of experience in the collision industry, owning shops, working with major players. And the question I want to ask you is, what do you consider the significant shifts that you've witnessed in the industry? And then I want to kind of tie it into your book, because I think it's really important for shop owners with these shifts in the business to learn about leadership. How did that shape you to write the book, From Doing to Leading?
When I got in the business, used to handwrite estimates. That was, we had no technology. And so I've watched change in the 40 years where we went from a motor book where we wrote an estimate, handwritten, you had to get on the phone, call the parts vendor, to the automation that's happened. And that 40 years has just been spectacular, which is just the estimates that, all the automation, the computer came in. And what effectively happened was it gave the ability to become a consolidator. Mm-hmm. What I mean by that, if you want to use a dog training thing, it became an e-collar, an electronic collar, to where all the other consolidators now could compile all the information. We had the technology, because if you went back when I first started the business, it was all mom and pops, and there was no way to thread all that together. Mm-hmm. So that's been spectacular to watch. And, I think looking back at my career, I was resistant to a lot of that change. Mm-hmm. With the technology side. I saw it as a big expense at first, but my son got into the business and he was like, Dad, this is the direction you got to go in. Right. But beyond the technology change, the one constant that's been in our business is human behavior. It's people. And that's what led me to write From Doing to Leading, is because I had, 9 managers that ran body shops for me when I went with Caliber down in the Charleston market. And I would get a phone call from one of my body tech or one of my managers, and he'd say, Joe the painter just quit. I'm like, well, how did Joe the painter just quit like now? It doesn't just happen. Like, a marriage doesn't end just like now, right? I'd have guys in the year I'll be all upset, come to see me, and I'm like, what's wrong, Bob? My wife left me. Well, Your wife didn't just leave you. It's been a deterioration of events. So one of the things, I came from a lot of guys that are in the business, start at the tech level, work their way up. Well, you might have great technical skills, and really know how to fix a car, but what you're lacking is that leadership quality, understanding human behavior, understanding how to motivate your team to get the best out of it. So I actually co-authored it with a neuroscientist out of MUSC. And in the book, we delve into, the different neurochemistry that the body produces automatically that you, as a manager, can tap into to get the best out of your people. So think about it in terms of, you know how to work a frame machine, you're a great technician, you become the manager. What's the you don't treat human beings the same way.
Right.
And so what's the key link? What's a kind of a roadmap to help you go from being a tech or from a doer to a leader? And that's what the book's about.
Right. It's actually interesting you said that, because I had a conversation just a couple of days ago with my pastor, who's reading a leadership book right now. And he's read, outside of any spiritual reading he does, he reads a lot of leadership stuff because, again, he's running a pretty large parish. And we were talking, and he said, I'm not sure leadership can be learned. And I said, no, I disagree. Because I think there's some people that are kind of born with the qualities, it just comes naturally to them. But can leadership be learned?
Yes. Yeah, I mean, they say natural born leaders. I think it comes down to your own father and your own leadership in your household. And if your dad was a good leader, he probably instilled a lot of that stuff in you. Okay. But it's understanding human behavior is no different than understand dog behavior. So for me to go from training and leading people to go to lead dogs, they found that dogs have the same neurochemistry makeup that humans do.
Interesting.
So for instance, when I was with Caliber, we used to do the morning shout out meetings. But the benefit to that was, if I recognized you for doing something great the day before in front of your crew, in front of your peers, what it does automatically is it kicks in something called oxytocin. It's a neurochemical, makes you feel good. Mm-hmm. So it's about how you're making your people feel. So if I say, Matt, man, yesterday you knocked it out of the park, everybody give Matt a hand, give him a shout out for doing an amazing job. You leave that meeting feeling like $1 million.
Right.
So it doesn't come to, it isn't about at that moment like, Joe made $2 more an hour. It's not about the money as much as it's about the feeling, because all the shops pay about the same commission structure.
Right.
So if you think about it in terms of what does your body shop have as an edge, it's the culture. And culture is the way you treat the people, and it's based on your core values. So if you're a leader that understands how to tap into these neurochemicals and understand how to be a little more conscious on, hey, if I shut you down and say, Matt, you're an asshole, you did this wrong yesterday, cortisol jumps up in you. And when cortisol jumps up in you, you shut down, you don't learn. You want to either fight or run away, right? It's fight or flight. Same thing with a dog. I mean, honestly, if I go if I can tell you a dog that's fear-based, that's reactive, if their state of mind is such that they can't calm, I can't teach that dog anything. I have to get that dog over the fears so that I can get that dog into a positive state of mind. But they respond. Now they've proven, they put the dogs in the machines and they've figured out that they have the same neurochemical makeup as a human being. So when I went from leading people and understanding the neurochemistry of human behavior, and I switched to training dogs, there was a lot of parallels. Uh-huh. And it's just been amazing. Now, the best thing about dogs is everything's binary, where it's very black and white,
right?
Where it's very momentary. And that's for the survival of the species, just like ourselves.
Right.
So with humans, we tend to be like, oh, sit in the corner. We worry about shit that happened in the past. We have fears for the future. Dogs in the very moment. So it's a little different scenario. But yeah, not to get way back on the dog training business, but humans, but there's some parallels there with the neurochemistries and how to motivate your team.
Very much. And
that's why the Doing from Leading book came out. It was a game changer for me in the business, the guys that I taught, and it helped us with the retention, because now all of a sudden Bob the painter just didn't quit.
Right.
Maybe we could move him to a different place. Maybe there was the interface that my manager was having with him that was making Bob feel bad. So those skill sets, those tools that you put in your toolbox are emotional IQ tools versus, a body hammer.
Right, exactly. And it seems to me that, again, you talked about how the dogs are very binary. We as humans are kind of all over the place. But it seems to me that emotional intelligence, that really, the more we can train ourselves to be in the moment. I think of athletes. I mean, I remember listening to a 60 Minutes interview with Novak Djokovic, who's probably the greatest tennis player of all time. And it's been amazing how many matches he's been in where he's down or he's not playing well and he can shift his focus. And the guy was talking about it being a gift. And he goes, oh, no, no, it's not a gift. He goes, I've trained myself to feel the emotion, accept it as a human being, and then allowing it to pass. And it seems
Yep,
like it's kind of a similar thing. Is that correct?
100%. It's a similar thing. Yep,
Yep.
that's
So,
exactly it. It's trained. It's really becoming self-aware.
yeah.
And one of the things that was when I left my collision shops in Detroit, I took 6 years off and worked on personal development and owned a personal training studio.
Okay.
When I was in the collision business, I used to be very reactive initially. I was a technician. I was screaming at people. I was slamming phones. I was drinking a 6-pack of beer at night. I was an absolute emotional train wreck.
Right.
I had to get out of the business. I had to figure it out to get my health back, right?
Right.
And when I did that, I went into personal training and I became a freaking health guru. And I spent every day reading about personal development.
Okay.
And what I learned when I got back into the collision business years later,
Mm-hmm.
because I helped Caliber with some acquisitions and became a regional with them,
Right.
I quit tying. I understood that the event's going to happen. The events happen, right?
Right.
But it's the value, the emotional value that I place on the event that happens that has the impact on me and my ability to lead my team.
Right.
So when you run a body shop, just recognize things are going to F up every day. When you have that attitude and something happens, it just becomes part of it. And if you understand that there's no problems, there's just solutions,
Right.
and that every word that you said has some type of impact on the way you see your world.
Right.
So don't tie a bunch of negative value to it. It just is. Is it a good thing or a bad thing? You have no idea, right? That old story I remember I was sitting in a bar one time and this guy, he had this, the normal bar where they all have their own bar stool.
Right.
But this guy he didn't live long because he drank a lot, but he had a really wise story.
Mm-hmm.
And the story was about, is it a good thing or a bad thing? And what he said was a story about a guy that lived in this town and he couldn't plow his field because his horse died. So he goes to his dad and he says, Dad, my horse died. He couldn't plow my field. And his dad says, well, is that a good thing or a bad thing? And he says, well, Dad, it's a bad thing. He goes, okay, son, if you say so. Well, why is it a bad thing? Well, because my horse died and now I can't plow my field to feed my family. He says, okay, son. So he leaves. The next day, this beautiful horse shows up at the guy's place. And he's like, oh, my God, this is amazing. He plows his whole field. He goes, Dad, you won't believe what happened. He says, what's that, son? He said, remember yesterday I was all upset because I lost my horse? He said, yeah. He said, this beautiful black horse shows up. He said, well, Dad, is it a good thing or a bad thing, son? He said, oh, it's a great thing, Dad. Why wouldn't it be a bad thing? It's a great thing. Okay, son. Well, my field's plowed. The next day, the general who lost his horse told his soldiers, go out and find my black horse, and whoever's got him, I want you to kill him. The point of the story was, we never know. We tie values to events that happen every day, and the value and the words that we put to those events has an impact on our emotional well-being. So if you're going to be successful, just accept what is. And as your point, train yourself not to be in that negative place.
Yeah, no, I think
words have power, man.
Ain't that the truth, man? I preach that to so many people because we forget about really the most important thing, whether you're building your shop or looking to transition, is the 6 inches between your ears here too. But one thing I want to talk on, because I know you've got into the health business, and I want you to share a little bit about your journey. Just not only just because we've talked about, financial success and your mental well-being. How does your physical well-being also tie into all of that?
So There was a point in my life where in my 20s when I was building my business that, I didn't have any type of correlation between my diet and exercise. I felt as though the business was the most important thing to make that revenue, to make that place go, to take care of my children. And then I got to be about 31 years old. I was 300 pounds. I would go to Wendy's for burgers and fast food and have Frosties. I ate like I always ate, but all of a sudden I hit 30, your metabolism slows down, my weight starts to go up, and I'm almost 300 pounds. So I go see the doctor, and the doctor's like, you're not going to make it to 40 the rate you're going. You're pre-diabetic. I left that doctor's office with a mission because of the fact that I had a daughter that was just born, that I was going to change my life. And I realized that all this energy I was putting in to build my body shop, it didn't matter shit if I don't have any money. I mean, if I could have all the money in the world, but I don't have my health, right? And if I don't have any balance. So a lot of guys like myself, and you own your own shop, you built your own business, you're a guy that's driven, but we tend to have tunnel vision. To be successful, you got to be focused every single solitary day. And that focus can be a detriment because you get over-focused on one thing, but you're not really well balanced. And that's where I was at.
Right.
I was a successful body shop owner, but I didn't have balance in my life. In other words, I didn't have good balance with my family, which is ultimately, I can tell you, being 65, that's the most important thing I did, was have great kids. Work comes and goes, but if you don't have your health at 65, you've worked your whole life, you can't be the best you can be. So that was kind of my turning point. And then I started to integrate health and fitness into my life. And here's the thing. You feel better, you can do better, and you're in a higher energy place, so you become a better leader naturally.
Right.
And you become a calmer human being. So I can't stress enough that as a guy that owns a body shop that's been successful in that world and that lane, to push yourself out of your comfort zone. If you don't know how to be fit, get a personal trainer. If you don't know what the value of your business is, then find the people that do.
Right.
I made a mistake early on. I mean, when I sold my businesses, got out in Detroit, that I undervalued it. I didn't go out and get the people in to do the proper evaluation. The other thing is, because I was always, did it all myself, looking backwards, if I had got myself an executive coach for personal development, it would have put me way far ahead. Had I got myself a business guy and somebody to come in and do an analysis like you, I'd have put myself way ahead of the game.
Right.
I had to realize it's not all John. You got to go out and seek the experts who are going to bring in the knowledge to know what to do. It's just like dog training, right?
All right.
I know how to do it. I spend hours doing it. So it's very difficult for the average person that buys a dog and brings them home to get the type of results and get their dog straightened around if they don't have that, unicorn dog that's perfect.
Right.
So,
oh, isn't that the truth? I mean, and it's funny because I know you and I talked, we did our pre-call. I was telling you about my coonhound, and, coonhounds are like, they pick up a scent, man. It doesn't matter what you do, but I wish that we would have gotten him to somebody like you that could have at least maybe kind of reined that in and trained him. And I think, we're good at what we're good at. And what we're not, that's where we need to bring in. There's a great book by Dan Martell called Buy Your Time Back. It's really about saying, okay, let's identify what your unique abilities are, and anything that's not in that, hire it out. But too many times we look at it from the money standpoint and say, well, geez, it's going to cost me money to do that. I can just do this as well. But guess what? If you can hire somebody at, $25 an hour, that's going to probably save you $150, $200, $500, $1,000 an hour.
Yep.
So, again, and, like I've been working with a coach for the last 15 years. All right. I pay him a lot of money. But I'll tell you what, my business has grown tremendously because of the advice and being kind of that outside observer. He's not emotionally involved in the business as I am, and he can give me a perspective from outside.
To your point, blind spots.
Yes.
We all have blind spots. And that's why they're called blind spots, because you can't see them yourself.
Right.
So having someone come in from the outside that has a different perspective is huge.
Yes, definitely. We're talking a little bit about, again, these blind spots. You've exited your business. What are some blind spots that you see that shop owners may have so that they don't make the same mistakes that you did? I mean, we talked about valuation. We talked about having a quarterback to help walk you through the plan, but what are some other things?
It's funny. It's that when I left the business, when we get so stuck in doing what we do every day and believe it's the most important thing in the world, that when I finally got out of the business, I can remember didn't go back into a body shop for 2 years. When I left. And then I got some perspective on how I valued things that the normal consumer, they didn't care. Like the Yellow Pages advertising. We would advertise that we had downdraft spray booth. And you know what? Average consumer has no idea what a downdraft spray booth is, nor do they have an idea what a frame machine is.
Mm-hmm.
It gave me the perspective from the customer's side that it's no different than going and get a pizza at a good pizza place. I don't care what kind of oven they cook the pizza in. I just know that the value of the service was amazing.
Right. And
so as a shop owner, I think sometimes we would get caught up in the technical side of stuff too much. We'd explain things to people way down the rabbit hole. We would put value on areas that our end consumer could care less about.
All right.
The other component with when I went through that experience, getting out of my shop and then going over to a Caliber years later, was the fact that, frankly, as an independent business owner at the time, I did a really poor job. I didn't do as good as Caliber had. So many more minds involved that when you have a collaboration of more people, you're able to construct some better processes than just single person. So there's a lot of areas where, like in the material control, the percentage that we would make on materials, we weren't even close. Then when I'm with the consolidator, we just did so much better. I would encourage anybody that's getting into the place to where if you're going to sell your business, get somebody in a year or two before, like yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And I wish I would have done that, because I left a lot of money that I wasn't putting on the table. And anybody out there that owns their own shop knows that. You need to have somebody from the outside come in and say, we need to account for everything all the way through. Boom, 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 boom. And it needs to be shown so that you get the maximum value of what you have and what your place is worth.
Yeah. It's amazing to me where, I'll get a prospect that comes in and we'll do an evaluation. We start working together, and then we get a valuation on the business and they're shocked. They're like, wait, what do you mean that it's only worth this? I'm like, this is because, again, there's money that's slipping through the cracks and they're not getting that valuation. So I completely agree. I mean, I always say, you want to be starting to plan this stuff. Well, I always say once you start your shop, you should be planning your succession, whether it's going to be to sell it, whether it's going to be to transfer it to family members or to key employees. Should all have a plan and be working that plan the whole way through, even if that's 30 years down the line. But typically a 5-year time frame is a good period to at least get you find out, here's where my value is, here's what I need to get out of it to live the lifestyle that I want. All right. And then how do I build the value to get to that so I can get that number?
Right. Long-term plan.
Yes.
A strategy in place, right?
Uh-huh.
We work as business owners. We're so worried about the day. But within that day, we need to have a strategy from an outside source that says, okay, here's your plan, here's your succession plan. And yes, you're going to have day-to-day things that you have to do, but you're heading in a direction.
Right.
So that ultimately you can end at this particular goal.
Yep. Exactly. So, John, we're getting close on time. Just one thing that I want to just ask you is that now, okay, so you've transitioned from the collision industry, you did fitness, you're now doing dog training. What are some of the principles or lessons that you've learned from the collision repair business that have been transferable and been able to add value in these new ventures? Because again, if somebody's looking to exit their shop, they've got to have something to be able to look forward to. And maybe, a lot of shop owners have that entrepreneurial heart and need to be doing something else. So what are some of the things that you've learned from the industry that you've been able to translate into your other businesses?
I call it the rule of threes. Every new business you go to start is cost you whatever you lay down for the forecast. It ends up costing you 3 times more money, and it takes 3 times longer than you initially forecasted.
Right.
Number two, you have to have a purpose in life. I mean, the dog training gives me a purpose.
Yeah.
So I can tell you, when I got out of the collision business, I got into the fitness business because it gave me purpose. So yeah, as a shop owner who's a guy that's entrepreneurial, who loves business, because business is business,
Right.
you know how many hours you have to spend at it. I would say take a couple years or a year, if you're focused and you're worried, and after you leave your shop and you sell your shop, you've taken care of your health, connect back to what you find pleasure in. And if you can turn that into a business and you're inspired to do that, that's it, man. There's no better life than that. It gives you purpose. So when you're in spirit, you're inspired, it comes through you from a higher place. You put that out in the world, that's kind of your, what you're here to do.
Yeah.
And don't worry so much if you're a young guy out there and you're, struggling every day and you listen to this. I recognize that it all works out in the end. And if it isn't worked out, it ain't the end. I promise you. Just keep walking along and doing it. Yeah. And it all works out. It all does. And you'll get there and spend time with your family, because that's really where it's all about.
I get it. Boy, I tell you what, John, we could go on and on all this stuff, because I think you're hitting all the hot buttons I have. And, maybe sometime down the road, we can get back together and kind of delve in more detail. But I want to thank you for being on Your Business, Your Life with me. It's been tremendous. We'll have all of John's links to any contact information if you're in the Charleston area, right?
Yep. It was great being on the show. You do a great service, and hey, keep it up, man.
Thank you. So if you live in the Charleston area and you're getting a new dog, look up John's. Get him trained right from the beginning. So
Yeah, 100%. Thanks, Matt.
No problem. And the last thanks always goes to you, the audience. Thank you for listening to Your Business, Your Life. If you've not subscribed to the podcast, please click the subscribe button below. That way, when a new episode drops, you'll get it right away. You'll be able to get some of this great content and great guests from like John that we've had on today. If you're watching on YouTube or any of these channels, please give us a 5-star review, which helps us to move up the charts. And, again, like I said, let's just make today a great day. I want to thank all of you. I want to thank John, and let's make things happen. So take care and God bless. Hey, I really want to thank you for listening to the Your Business, Your Life podcast. If you want to be notified when new episodes become available, click the subscribe button below.
All information is obtained from sources deemed reliable but not guaranteed. No tax or legal advice is given nor intended. Content provided herein or on our website should not be construed as an offer for investment advice or for securities, insurance, or other investment products. Investments involve the risk of loss and are not guaranteed. Consult a qualified legal, tax, accounting, or financial professional before implementing any investments or strategy discussed here. High Lift Financial is a DBA for DiFrancesco Financial Concierge, LLC. Investment advisory services are provided through Cornerstone Planning Group, LLC, an independent advisory firm registered with the Securities and Exchange Commission.